Welcome back to Consider Your Verdict, a series of 4 short presentations in which we are looking at the claim of many Muslims that Muhammad is the last and the greatest prophet. In episodes 2 and 3, I want to take a close look at the contrasting claims of Muhammad and then Jesus. But first, I want to consider the Prophet Muhammad, his claims, the evidence, and the authenticity of his claims. Second, I will briefly consider his assertions about Jesus. The Quran makes relatively few claims about Muhammad outside of his authority to lead and to be obeyed. However, what the Quran does claim is that the exact words of the Quran were given to Muhammad by Allah through the angel Gabriel, and therefore the Quran is verbally inspired from Allah. Muhammad is therefore an honoured messenger from God, and the message itself has absolute authority. But what of Muhammad's personal authority from Allah? The Quran does say that Muhammad was given authority from Allah to teach. But to be fair, nowhere in the Quran does it actually say that Muhammad is the best or the greatest prophet. In fact, the Quran says in Surah 2, verse 285, quote, "All of them, the prophets, have believed in Allah and his angels and his books and his messengers, saying, we make no distinction between any of his messengers," unquote. However, the Quran does admit to Allah favouring some prophets over others. Surah 2 verse 253 says, quote, "Those messengers or prophets, some of them we caused to exceed others. Among them were those to whom Allah spoke, and he raised some of them in degree," unquote. And of course, Muhammad, being the last, is definitely favoured and raised in degree by most Muslims around the world. The Quran also asserts that Muhammad was the seal of the prophets, the last word from Allah, and therefore, arguably, the ultimate prophet from God. This comes very close to the Quran actually saying that Muhammad is the best and the greatest. The Quran also says that Muhammad is a source of truth and blessing, a warner, a person of upright character, and a good model to follow. And the Quran says that Muhammad has authority to pursue his ambitions and authority to subjugate non-believers. However, beyond that, it is claimed by Muslims that Muhammad's authority is demonstrated more by his example and his pronouncements than from Quranic revelations alone. That is why Islam relies so heavily on the Sunnah, the record of Muhammad's statements and practices, and on the Hadith, which reports the statements of others. Nearly all of the evidence supporting the claim that Muhammad is the greatest prophet actually comes from the Hadith, rather than from the Quran. The Hadith is a collection of reports and oral histories of Muhammad's example and pronouncements. To be clear, tradition says that Muhammad did not authorize writings that focused on him. It is said that he resisted the writing of anything of that nature while he was alive. It was not until about 5 generations after his death, or 200 years, that some of his followers began to collect writings about Muhammad's examples and pronouncements. However, even within Islam itself, it is important to note that there is much dispute over the reliability and authenticity of some of the Hadith. After he moved from Mecca to Medina, Muhammad began to become more of a military warrior or political leader than a prophet. He was a ruthless judge over those who did not submit to his rule, and a fierce enemy of those who did not submit to his armies and adopt his religion. But there are also some very clear statements in the Quran about what Muhammad is not. It acknowledges that Muhammad had no supernatural powers. It acknowledges that he is not himself divine. In fact, it records that he is just a human being and a sinner who is uncertain of his own salvation at the final judgment. As a prophet, he lacked conviction about his early revelations being from Allah. In fact, his wife Khadijah had to convince him to take these revelations seriously. He was actually tempted initially to think that they were from an evil source. It's interesting to note that many of the prophecies from his early years in Mecca were actually reversed or changed by subsequent revelations once he got to Medina. This necessitated a new doctrine in Islam called abrogation, which made later revelations superior to earlier revelations whenever there were differences, and there are many of them. Surely this shakes confidence in all the revelations if they can so easily be reversed. And surely it also shakes confidence in the authority of the Prophet Muhammad himself. What are we to make of a God who changes his mind? Is Allah uncertain about the things he wants to reveal? Or is it Muhammad who is uncertain? Is Allah inconsistent and fickle, even unreliable? Changing revelations inevitably raise questions about truth. Let's now turn to what the Quran has to say about Jesus. Muhammad, through the Quran, introduces Jesus to his followers as Christ, the Anointed One. This is a term that the Quran only uses of Jesus, not of Muhammad. Why is this so? Why would Allah not anoint Muhammad, his final prophet? The Quran confirms that Jesus was a sinless man, which is more than it is willing to claim for Muhammad. It also affirms that Jesus was a worker of miracles, something it does not claim regarding Muhammad. It confirms that Jesus was taken into heaven, a high honour that was not given to Muhammad himself, who lies buried in the mosque in Medina. It clearly states that Jesus would return to take part in the Judgment Day, an honour not bestowed on Muhammad. However, Muhammad, through the Quran, denies certain things about Jesus, significant things, that he claimed to be divine, that he was crucified, that he rose from death, and it certainly asserts that Jesus was not the Son of God. How is Muhammad shaping up as the last and greatest prophet? How does he measure up as the seal of all prophets? How will he rate in the final test of truth? There is no doubting that Muhammad was highly esteemed by his followers, the founder of one of the world's largest religions. But is his main reputation that of a revered prophet or a feared tyrant? Join us for part 3 of this presentation, which can be downloaded from the Consider Your Verdict playlist on our Daniel Shayesteh YouTube channel. Thanks.